a lot of my leaders now are really strong, and I'm proud of like being able to have developed them and gotten them to the positions that they're in. And I see them too now replicating that, like, okay, how do I do? One of the women that works for me said, like, I want to do for so and so that works for me what you did for me. So that's really like something I'm particularly proud of, which is nice. But I think it's about taking the time to listen and understand people's strengths and their opportunity areas, and then coaching them on how to evolve and develop where they need to.
This is the Snarketing Podcast, for marketers by marketers, talking to marketers with just a touch of snark. Now, here are your hosts, Valerie Vespa and Matt Worst.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Snarketing Podcast. My name is Matthew Worst.
And I am Valerie Vespa.
I don't usually go by the Matthew professionally, even though it is a more formal version. It's actually what's written on my birth certificate. But I felt compelled to be a little formal as we fall into formality here. It's September, but we've got a real leader in our industry coming on to talk about what Q4 is going to be like, growth, innovation. But she's your guest, Valerie. Can you set up this entire conversation in like 1 minute or less? No
Yes,
pressure.
I have to admit I met Colleen at an event, at a work event, and if you know me well, know that I can lose my voice after a multiple day conference of sorts. So when I met her, I actually had no voice, and I was doing sort of sign language and contemporary
Okay.
dances to,
Let's see if she
yeah,
remembers it the same way. We'll
exactly.
obviously ask her that. I'm curious. Look, we talk a lot about the events that we attend, and I'm sure our listeners either have FOMO or are just kind of tired of hearing about it. But it really is one of the central arteries that delivers oxygen, not only to our personal creativity, but really drives business. And I've underestimated that for a very long time. But we're coming up to, there's really two big marquee phases of the calendar. There's one in kind of the spring, and there's another here over these next few weeks. And
Yeah.
I'll admit, I went to the doctor, had my annual physical like I always do. I didn't get the best report. Maybe it's all this sedentary sitting in front of a microphone, but I'm committed this fall to also fall into fitness. So I need
Oh,
to get
look
my
at
fitness
you.
up. I need to get my health ready to get my stamina ready for these events so I don't pass out or make terrible decisions during the networking breaks and eat candy bars instead of like, I don't know, the fruit that they always have and no one ever eats.
I I totally think that having your physical at this time, I think is a great time because everyone sort of makes their New Year's resolutions of, health probably being number one in January. And I feel like January I'm not in the right headspace in January to make
No,
those sort
you're
of
eating all the
massive changes.
leftover holiday food and like
Yeah.
how look,
Winter
the
depression if you live in the Northeast.
yeah, yeah. But there's no good time to ever start, right? Like I'm already concerned about the Halloween season and the fact that I'm not going to be able to load up on all the candies that we hide from our kids after they bring it home from trick or treating.
You're gonna have to just start drinking again because you need a vice.
I don't want to do that. I
I'm
spent a
kidding.
lot of
I'm kidding.
years giving up alcohol. My vices are clear. It's stress, it's anxiety.
You feed off of it.
I don't know that I feed off of it. I think it feeds off of me in a bad way, like it's literally eating away at me. But I operate out of, I think I've called it healthy paranoia. That's
Maybe
not.
that's just your justification for it, but whatever. This could be like a different therapy session we have at a later date.
Let's turn to instead your friend.
Yes.
Again, I am not someone with a media background, so I'm really keen and curious to tap into her wisdom and insights and vision for the future. Anything else you want to add, Val, before we
Well, and
bringing our guests?
yeah, no, and I think with Colleen, it's the commerce is a big topic. It has been for the last couple of years, and she's leading efforts at her agency there, and she kind of carved out this role for herself. So it is a really interesting story, and I'm excited to chat with her about it more.
We've got a real powerhouse joining us today. Colleen Hotchkiss is the president of growth practices at Zenith. She's a media maven, a 2024 Adweek Media All-Star, and winner of the She Runs It Changing the Game Award. Colleen leads key growth areas like commerce, content, and multicultural across big-name clients in CPG, beauty, luxury, and banking. She's all about driving measurable results and pushing boundaries. Let's give a snarky welcome to Colleen Hotchkiss.
Hi, Colleen, and welcome to our podcast. It is called the Snarketing Podcast. Let's see if you can bring the snark. Is that something you feel like you're up for and ready to do today?
I guess challenge accepted.
Well,
I will do my
you're
best.
Here.
Thanks for having me.
It's not a surprise. You knew the name of the podcast when you joined. So yeah, thanks for joining us. And you are Valerie's
And
guest.
she is my guest.
Yeah, so you go.
Yes,
I will
correct.
shut up. Valerie, you start. Lead us
Yeah.
off.
Yeah. You are my guest, and therefore I hand select people that I know are clearly have a little snark in them. I don't know. To be a friend of mine, I feel like is to be snarky. So, and I think it's actually kind of funny when I think about how we actually met each other for the first time. Do you want to like?
Are we doing like what how Yuri has you programmed in her phone? Like we're going to go there.
I know. I feel like we might just want to mention it because I think it's actually hilarious how people forge relationships in this business. And I think like the short end of the stick. What was it? We were in Cannes.
Yep.
We were on a yacht, and
it was later in Cannes, so it was a few days in. And anybody that's been, that it's long days. Yes, there's rosé, but they're actually busy, filled with work as well. And so Val actually didn't have much of a voice when I met her for the first time. And so we communicated through miming. And she we totally bonded, and she ended up in all of our phones as Voiceless Val. And that was the start of our friendship and working relationship now.
I mean, I think
yeah, exactly.
We all know Voiceless Val at various events, but I could not think of a more inaccurate nickname for her. I'm sure you agree once you get to know her, right?
Indeed.
Oh my God, I know. Thankfully, she still likes me when I have a voice. So the relationship has continued. And thank you for joining us, Colleen. I really appreciate you here. So I think just to kind of kick it off, if you can tell us a little bit about your background and how you got started in the media agency landscape. I don't even think I know this story. So,
Oh gosh. Okay. Well, I'm not going to give you like years because that would date me, and I'm quite old now. But when I was in college, I really was interested in marketing and advertising, mainly from like watching TV shows like Melrose Place. And so when I graduated, I knew that I wanted to work in media or advertising. I didn't quite know what I wanted to do or even what media was in the context of advertising. But my aunt had a friend that had worked in ad sales and at agencies, and she got me a connection and an interview at Zenith. And actually that's where I am today as well. So I started at Zenith, took a little hiatus, and came back, and I've been back here since 2007, but that's how I got into the business.
So if we're not counting in years, maybe we can count in decades, since that's the point of where I'm at in my career. But if you look at these decades that you've spent and as a boomerang at Zenith, I would love to learn a little bit more and dig deeper as to just like what's kept you motivated and engaged within the company. Obviously, the industry has evolved, holding companies, all this stuff happens, but like there aren't many people who can say that they are lifers with an organization, and you can. So like what's kept you so loyal?
Well, I did take that brief hiatus, but I have been back since 2007, so it's been some time. And I would say what's kept me loyal is the opportunities, the people, and the diversity of experience that I've been able to have here. So my background and what I started in was originally media planning and strategy. And so when I came back to Zenith in 2007, I was a strategy supervisor working on a CPG client. kind of continued to grow and move up through that. Ended up working and planning on some other clients. I've worked in telco, I've worked on QSR, I've worked in beauty, I've worked across a variety of things and in strategy and planning and client leadership. And probably about, I don't know, 6 years ago or so, I was realizing that the clients that I was leading were ones that were leaning more and more into commerce. And so I kind of raised my hand to our CEO at the time and I said, hey, I said, we have a need here. We don't actually have a practice. Can I be the executive sponsor of this and start to develop and grow this? And so then my role became kind of twofold in that regard. And I was still running large clients like Coty and Reckitt and Smucker, but I was also helping to grow our commerce practice, both on those clients and for the agency. And one of the good things about Zenith and Publicis is that we do have kind of Publicis at the center. So you get that support from the large holdco, but you still get to build and customize within your brand as well. So I did that and I successfully grew and developed our commerce practice. And then I guess it was probably a little over 2 years ago now, I was ready kind of for my next challenge. And one of the things that I had identified on the client businesses that I was working on and had talked a lot about with our CEO, Lauren Hanrahan, who's amazing, was that there really is this connectivity and convergence when you think about commerce, content and influencers, and culture. And so what I mean by culture is when we think about multicultural consumers or diverse populations and the influence that they're having on our clients' businesses and the reality that they are the future of our clients' businesses, the influence that they're having and how they're shaping the media people are consuming, how people are engaging, and then commerce being a thread through across all of it with everything being increasingly shoppable. And so we kind of created this role. And in terms of growth practices is what we called it, because these are areas of growing importance to our clients. And it is about how do we connect the dots across commerce, culture, and content? Because we believe that when you do that, the 1 + 1 + 1 equals more like a 9 or 10 versus, a 3. And, it could be just content and commerce are connected or culture and content, but that's what I'm kind of charged with now is building each of those practices in their own right across our clients, but equally then how are we connecting the dots across those three areas?
Well, who better than Colleen to connect culture, content, community, commerce, collaboration, and other words?
I do like the C alliteration. That was intentional.
I see what you did there.
It's very, very Kardashian.
Except they're K's and we're C's.
Now I might rethink that.
So you kind of just you kind of like highlighted it, but like as far as, the last 10, 20 years in the media agency landscape, like what do you think are some of the major things that have shifted in this space in terms of, learnings and way that you're conducting business? I'm assuming like, audiences now cultures, like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think, to your point in regards to kind of the audiences and the populations that are going to be driving our clients' businesses, the media consumption is obviously quite different in terms of what and how they're connecting with brands and how the ability that brands have to connect with consumers in that regard. And so when we think about things like influencers having more influence, that's really bad. Let's fix that later. But influencers having more impact on consumer decisions than what would be, former celebrities or things like that at certain points in time. The importance of authenticity and communications and the fact that it can be somebody that, feels more attuned to your own life and in terms of the communities and the creators that you're following and how we're able to influence brands. So I think that that's a big piece of it. I think also the frictionlessness that, we're able to achieve, and it's not perfect yet, but in terms of driving that immediate interaction from exposure to buy, that click to buy that you're able to do across all channels, whether it's in social, whether it's, watching a TV spot with a QR code. So I think those two things are having a lot of influence on how we connect with consumers and equally then how we are able to drive to that ultimate sale, which is what we're all in the business of doing for our clients today anyway.
So that's, with consumers, that makes a ton of sense. What about anything in terms of observations or changes with over time with client expectations or how you agency deliverables in that process?
Yeah. I mean, I think that the pressures on our clients are always increasing, and so the pressures and the expectations for the agency are
Paying
always
it forward or
increasing.
backward,
And
depending on the
yeah,
direction. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And I think that our clients are challenged with managing across like different revenue streams and new ways that their, consumers are shopping and things like that. And so, one of the things that we did when we started the commerce practice too was look at like how do we drive that end-to-end thinking and that integrated planning, right? Because consumers aren't seeing difference between the brand exposures that they're getting, whether it's from a national or brand budget versus a commerce or shopper budget. So making sure that we're connecting the dots across the ecosystem so that it's a seamless experience for consumers. And I think that's a lot more for our clients to manage too, right? It previously they might have been separate disciplines, now they're coming more together. And so how do we help connect the dots and be that bridge for them?
Right, as the CMO sits much more closely to the CFO and CEO, right? Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. So we talk a lot about campaigns that capture and shape culture, like you were talking about. Can you share an example of something like a particularly successful growth campaign or initiative that you led as of recent?
Yes, I can. I think that we've got, I mean, this is exactly kind of, what I'm charged with, right? Connecting the dots across those three areas and how do we flip the cultural conversation to drive greater impact and differential results for our clients. So one of the more recent ones that we've done is actually, so Jif is one of our Smucker clients brands.
You pronounce it Jif, not GIF, right? Just so
that is
okay,
true. Well, I mean, you were teaming up very well there because when we first started working on Jif, that was one of the first things that we did to kind of create this brand, introduce it to culture, and start connecting with younger consumers. There was the Jif first gift debate, which launched, right? And so that was the first foray into that. And then we leaned into culture further, where we did what was called the Lil Jif Project, but it was where we partnered with Ludacris and Gunna, who is an up and coming at the time, I'm sure he's quite big now, rapper, but to talk about kind of what it sounded like to rap and how you could mix old school and new school rap styles if you had peanut butter in your mouth, which is quite funny and actually won a Cannes Lion, that campaign. Check it out if you haven't seen it. But then most recently, as we continue to like insert Jif into culture and think about what that looks like, we did something around the Super Bowl this year, which was called Save the Celery. And this one was really cool and did connect kind of commerce, content, and culture all together. So the premise of it was really that Super Bowl, massive eating occasion, appetizers, wings are always there. Celery comes with the wings. Nobody eats the celery. What do we do, right? So the whole concept was around save the celery with Jif because peanut butter and celery is a really great
snack, a healthy snack, right?
Yep.
Wonderful.
And so it was all around Super Bowl, and there was extensions with GoPuff to have that immediacy of delivery. So again, a way to introduce the brand into culture, capitalizing on one of those moments, and attracting new consumers into the fold. So that was a fun one that we recently did. What else? We've done some stuff too for a Buffalo Wild Wings client. We wanted to, their name says wings. Ironically, I'm talking about wings in both of these. But they really wanted to talk about their burgers and become better known for that. And so I don't know if you guys know Brock Purdy, but he's a
49ers
quarterback. I think it's the 49ers. Yep. Exactly. Was Mr. Irrelevant. So we tapped in and partnered with him and had him be kind of the voice or the voice of the burger for Buffalo Wild Wings, because what do we talk about things that are relevant? How do we make them relevant again? And then we did a partnership with the New Heights podcast, which is of course the Kelsey brothers, which of course
they're
was popular even before the Taylor Swift effect.
Yes, well, so you kind of put them on the map. Let's be honest.
No, yes, that was exactly it. It was all of the programs that we did from a publicist perspective with them. But again, so flipping the cultural conversation, tapping into something that's existing there, and then how do you surround that and make it relevant for your brands?
Well, it's interesting that in these cases you're working with celebrity talent who are also creators and influencers in their own way. And in many ways, the celebrity model has driven a lot of advertising going back to 100 years, but even over the last 10 15 years, the creative model, as I make air quotes, with agencies has shifted to and supported and enabled the rise of creators. And you talked about influencers. what
Yep.
what's getting you to lean into this, and what excites you about this evolution, and like where are we going next? What football player are we working with next, maybe too?
I actually, that's a really good question. And I think, it doesn't always need to be about the big celebrity creator. And that's the power, or the celebrity spokesperson. And that's the power of kind of the rise of the creator economy and of influencers in general, because a lot of times you can have more, you can afford more if you're a client, but have more impact with a broad group of creators that might be in the more mid or smaller tier range. And what that really allows you to do is to have a diverse set of creators that could speak differently to different consumer sets, right? And so no longer are you stuck in a model where you produce your, couple of creative spots that cost a ton of money to do, and that goes out and it mass reach and it's hopefully appealing to all. You're actually able to still get your brand message out, but have it be done so in a way that's authentic to different sets of consumers. This program is a few years old now, but we had worked on one which we called Shop a Vibe, and it was about introducing a coffee brand that we work with to younger consumers, which seems to be a theme when we're talking about influencers and creators. But what we did, again, and this was another connection between commerce, culture, and content, was that we recognize that not every young, diverse consumer was going to be the same. Some might be a lazy college student, some might be a grad student, some might be, not even in college. And what does that look like? And so when we cast the creators for this campaign, we did so with a wide lens that was more representative of, the college audiences, the people in that demographic, and the different races, ethnicities, and all the things and their experiences. And we're able to work with creators that would connect more authentically with their communities that are following them.
Please pardon this brief pause as I read some words from our sponsor. Are you a B2B marketer like Matt and Val? Maybe you're tired of playing hide and seek with those sneaky website visitors? It may be a jumble out there, but say goodbye to the struggle and say hello to Leadfeeder. Picture this. You've got the power to spot companies lurking on your website, track their every move in real time, and seamlessly sync it all with your CRM. Leadfeeder isn't just a tool, it's your secret weapon for unleashing the lead-generating beast within. But wait, there's more. Leadfeeder goes beyond the basics, giving you juicy insights into visitor behavior that even the best ad-tech analytics mavens would envy. And with customizable notifications, lead scoring, and GDPR compliance, you'll be closing deals faster than you can say SOW and MSA. So, are you ready to kick your lead game up a notch? Head over to leadfeeder.com for your free demo. LEADFEEDER.com. And now, back to the show.
Are there any trends that you're seeing as of late that are of particular interest to you? Things that are being adopted, like recently, that from an influencer perspective, that you're testing out that has some legs, and you think could be sort of changing the trajectory of how you think about commerce and influencers? Or is there also how do these social platforms or wherever you're placing this sort of content, are they coming up with ideas for you, or are you doing the RFI? How do a lot of these things come together in such an amazing way?
Yeah. I guess going back to kind of my strategy or planning background, right? And the challenges that our clients are facing in terms of, having a consistent or authentic experience with consumers, it really starts with the brand brief and the insight and the business objective of what we're deciding to do, right? And then we determine what the holistic media mix is. So what role do influencers or creators play in that mix? How much of the mix should they be? What is video? What is out of home? What is going to be in purely social channels? How do we use social to amplify other things that we're doing? So in terms of where it starts or how we get there, ultimately everything's got to focus on the brand objective and goal, because there's a lot of cool things you can do, but if they're not going to move the client's business, then we're wasting their money and we're not doing their jobs. I think in terms of kind of trends, influencers, one of the fastest increasing parts of the marketing mixes that, as we see it across the industry. And so I expect for that to continue. And I think increasingly making shoppability even more frictionless than it is, and for clients and consumers to figure that out, will make it more powerful. I don't think everyone's always going to want to buy immediately, and I think that people should think about that too, in terms of like social and influencers are a source of inspiration, don't always need to be a direct purchase, but having that option there, make sure that you're not missing out on the sale if folks are in the mood. The other thing is that I think about from a brand perspective is that influencers and creators are almost now becoming an additional sales force for our clients, right? And so, yes, you still have your traditional sales leads that are out, marketing, doing the thing, making sure we're getting the right distribution, at retailers and things like that. But this is another avenue that's also like a marketing arm outside of media itself.
Well, before we put a bow on this in the influencer creator section, I just want to posit one other suggestion, or maybe even offer. As two emerging creators and influencers in this space, Valerie and I are available to help support any future campaigns that you may need or want. So, not everyone has to be a big celebrity. I agree. Okay.
I listen, I hear you. I have a few things that I was like joking with some friends that I should get some affiliate links or revenue for. Like I have this little fan, Val Zenith, that I carry around with me in hot weather. And I have gotten like family members, friends, everybody to buy it. And I've like sent them the link and I'm like, wait a second, like I'm an influencer on this. So
my God.
I get it. I'll keep my
Colleen, the sauna blanket. The
sauna blanket too. See, there's so many things. My portable chargers, like I'm telling you.
What is one layer below
It must be
nano
just because I
influencer?
talk a lot.
What is one layer below? Whatever that layer, we need to come up with a new name. But like micron influencer.
Microscopic.
Yeah, I don't know. It's whatever's quark level subatomic. Whenever you're ready, we can, have your people get in touch with our.
I will keep it in mind.
We need people now. We don't have people. So let's move on. Just as you've grown and really emerged, not just as a leader within your within the industry, but certainly as a manager and a leader within an organization. How do you think about and plan for and strategize leadership and team management with your group, whether they are junior talent or even senior level employees who've been around as well?
I think it goes back to, so I've been fortunate, like I said, one of the reasons that kept me at Zenith as long as I have is because I have been fortunate to have that diversity and experience, and I've had good mentors and leaders who have given me the opportunities, right, when I've wanted to move on to a different account or try something new, or, like making the shift from being a client and client leader into what I'm doing now, which is really leading practices across all clients. So for me, one of the things that I really strive to do is pay that forward, right? And so paying close attention to the talent on my teams, listening when they're seeking new opportunities, and recognizing their strengths and weaknesses, and making sure that I'm helping them grow. So I think that's a big piece of it. A lot of my leaders now are really strong, and I'm proud of like being able to have developed them and gotten them to the positions that they're in. And, I see them too now replicating that, like, okay, how do I do? One of the women that works for me said, like, I want to do for so-and-so that works for me what you did for me. So that's really like something I'm particularly proud of, which is nice. But I think it's about taking the time to listen and, understand people's strengths and their opportunity areas, and then coaching them on how to evolve and develop where they need to.
That's so true. So what do you think are some of the more important qualities for a leader in today's media agency environment?
A sense of humor, maybe?
I think curiosity, especially as we're in an industry that continues to evolve. I mean, increase in AI, how that's going to change people's jobs. Ability to be strategic and think holistically and see the big picture. So, there's different areas of specialization or expertise that we all have, and that's really important, but understanding how that fits within the broader scheme of things. So like we talked about, how is influencer within a marketing mix? What is the role of commerce here? How does that connect to the broader objectives? Those are two big things. I think empathy is important in a leader as well. And I think not being afraid to like ask for help or admit when you don't know something. I think it's a sign of strength to be like, hey, I stuck on this problem. Like, can I help you? Like I want my team to be solution oriented and come to me with solutions or options. But if they're stuck, like don't sit there and, go
Feel
around
like
in
you're
circles.
alone in an island,
You're
right?
not. Like
Yeah,
that's a kind of strength to ask for help and in that regard.
so true.
And I like hand raisers, like people that are like, I want to get involved in this and
Yeah.
Well,
show that ambition.
okay, so I'm raising my hand. I have a question. As
Okay.
you're talking about vision and thinking about that bigger picture, is part of your role as a leader thinking about not just the next 6 months, 12 months, but like what is the role of our agency, of agencies in general, over the next 5 to 10 years? Since you'll obviously still be at Zenith at that point.
I hope so, if they'll have me. Yeah, I mean, I sit on Zenith's executive committee, so and I report into our CEO. So as we talk about like what is driving our clients' business, what are the growth strategies and plans for them, how do we help them best? Certainly, that's a part of it. I wouldn't say I'm setting the 10-year vision or roadmap, but thinking about what our clients are going to need in the now, near, next, and how we can orient to achieve them is definitely part of what I do.
So, like, how do you balance innovation with like the day-to-day sort of agency operational needs of your clients?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you make time for both?
I guess
Or
it's
or is
hard.
it
I
or is
mean,
it
it's
just part of the same daily sort of routine?
it's hard, right? Because like we've talked about, everything's
Yeah.
becoming more complex and busier and greater pressures. But if we're not bringing the innovation forward, then we're not doing our jobs, and our clients are going to be falling behind. So I think it's our job to, this is something I heard dating back ages ago, but I think when you're thinking about plans, it's like, what is the 70-20-10 of it all, right? Like, what's the 70 that are proven drivers that you want to prioritize your investment around? It's like 20% is like expanding of things that you've tested or, think are going to be the future. And then carving out that 10%, and 70-20-10 is just like rough number, right? Like that have been talked about across different clients across the industry and things like that. But I think having that mentality and always doing that sense check of like, okay, do we have that innovation element? Are we testing something that's going to set us up for the future? And, for me and for my teams, a lot of what we're doing, started in those areas. And so, and continues to evolve in terms of the opportunities that exist there. When you think about how social platforms are evolving, their shopping capabilities and what that looks like, and new marketplaces emerging and new retail media networks every day. And so, for me, it's like the innovation has to be there because that's a lot of it sitting in the world that I live in and am responsible for.
Yeah, I was going to ask what either hard skills or soft skills you feel like you want to work on. For me, it's math, because when you said 70-20-10, I had to make sure that added up to 100. I was like counting and almost grabbed my calculator. But, are there things that you feel like you still want to get smarter or invest in, or, you want to invest in the L&D and put it squarely
Mm-hmm.
on your shoulders to bolster?
Mm-hmm. Um, wow, putting me on the spot here. Yeah, I mean, listen, I think that there's always places and ways that everyone can improve, right? And if you're not always trying to improve and you're not always trying to learn, then you're going to be stagnant because none of us are perfect. And, we'd all be sitting atop billions of dollars if in fact we were. For me, I think it's, just continuing to stay on top of the trends and the evolutions that are happening in the space, understanding how things like AI can make our jobs easier or make us smarter. How are we applying that to the mix? And then continuing to, learn from those around me, whether up, down, or peers. There's always things that you can take away from different people's leadership styles, how they're developing teams. The people that work for me aren't all gonna learn in the same way, and it's you can't always manage people the same. So I think you've got to be flexible to do that as well.
You mentioned retail media earlier, and it's an area that is
Mm-hmm.
increasingly of interest and even professional overlap for me. I'd be curious to get your just high level take on where we're at. You know, we can use a baseball analogy. Everyone always says, "Oh, we're in the first inning." I don't know if you're a sports person, although it sounds like you like football. But as far as the evolution of retail media and giving brands and their partners opportunities to connect and then monetize, like, where are we in that evolution, and like what comes next in this space?
I mean, there's obviously a massive acceleration that happens, on the heels of COVID, which, can't believe it's already been however many years since then. But we're continuing to see the expansion and the growth in these areas, especially more as retailers aim to increase the sophistication of their offerings, right? And so it's not just about on-site search anymore. There's off-site opportunities, increasing shifts to self-serve, which is putting more control into, our hands in order to optimize the media more effectively. So I expect that we'll continue to see more growth in this area, more sophistication within the retail media networks, and more opportunity. Especially when we think about from like what we're able to do from a programmatic perspective and better managing channels like video across both what is traditionally brand media or may have come from a traditionally brand media budget and a commerce budget, right? To make sure that we're not over frequencying consumers and things of that nature. So I think there's a lot of growth still to be had there. The other thing that we're seeing is more and more companies, to your point of like monetizing data, are creating what their version of retail media networks. So, I think it was United Airlines launched Connecting, right, at Cannes, which again is about the value of their data, especially for those premium luxury audiences, modeled off of like what the retail media networks have been doing. So I think there's also going to be other industries that are other brands and types of clients or categories that are going to move into that space.
Yeah, travel leading the way.
Sure.
I mean, Marriott's media network was there. Now, what is the next opportunity for someone to become a media network? It depends on who wants to, A, who has the network, B, who can monetize it with enough content. And I think just something I've been, fixated on is at what point are there inventory challenges and limitations where we've hit this saturation point, and then what? So I think creative minds will be working on that as well. I'm sure it'll be something that touches what you guys are doing as well.
I think it comes down to the value of the audience and the data that that you have, and can you get it somewhere else, or is it really truly distinct and unique, and is it going to be that valuable to drive a business forward?
Yeah, the reclamation of like those brands as a destination instead of just pushing everything into walled gardens where we know the data. Not to knock our partners at these channels, but some people have to now start asking questions. Would I be better off if I own it as opposed to other people owning that data? So interesting times ahead.
Yeah, for
sure. So forging ahead a little personally, I mean, I think that we've had a lot of experience doing some luxury shopping together.
That's retail therapy, not retail media, Valerie. I think you misheard what we were talking about here.
How do you feel like your work life sort of influences your personal, buying, purchase behavior and consumption? Like, what do you think? I know this is a tough one.
I mean, without my job, there wouldn't be so much luxury shopping or purchasing. Any shopping or purchasing.
Yeah, right. Well, thank you to Zenith for that. I don't know, do you feel like you're influenced by the stuff that, based upon sort of like the time, the age that you're in right now? Like, I mean, like, do you feel like that's
1,000%. I can't tell you how many brands that I have discovered on Instagram and purchase from that I wouldn't have otherwise. And the reality is, what you're shopping and what you're searching online is like, that's how it's being served to me. So 1,000% I'm influenced by the nature of the industry that I'm in, and I'm going to do client research, or I'm going to know, and then here's a new brand to buy and things like that. So I'm definitely experiencing that.
I love it.
One of the real joys and it's something I didn't realize as I was growing up, but I think our industry collectively is one of the leaders in empowering and supporting and giving opportunities for women as leaders in this space.
Yes.
And I love that. Some of my greatest mentors obviously have not only been women, but people who I continue to keep in touch with, and personally and professionally just enjoy being around. As a female leader in the space, I'm really just curious to get your perspective, if there's advice or guidance or nuggets or pearls of wisdom that you would give to someone or share with someone who is looking to either start or advance their career in this agency, media, convergence of commerce, content, connection, and Colleen's.
I love this question. I don't know that it's specific to like what I'm managing today or the industry like as a whole more so. But I would say, speak up. Your voice and your thoughts are important and they have merit. Like if you've got, don't be shy about that and raise your hands. I think the other thing that is important to me and something that I struggled with a bit earlier in my career and frankly probably still struggle with sometimes too is like, I got married. Well, I guess it'll be 6 years ago on Saturday.
Oh, congratulations.
But I was a bit older when I got married. And my husband and I have consciously made a choice that not to have children as well. And so for me, earlier on in my career, when I was, a single woman, and there was other people around me that parents, whether it was men or women that, needed to go home and take care of their kids or have those family things, I often found myself being like, oh, it's okay. I'll stay. I'll do the late shift. I'll work on that to take it up. And what I've realized is that and what I encourage everyone to realize and really think about, male or female or however you identify, is that your personal life is important too. Like just because you don't have the same responsibilities or family structures or whatever it may be as someone else doesn't mean that your time is any less valuable. And it's so critically important to make sure that you are creating that balance, creating that space for your personal time, and whatever it is that's going to rejuvenate, recharge, and fuel you, because this is a great and fun industry to be working in, but it is intense at times and there's a lot to be done. And so you've got to find the way to make that balance. It's going to make you better at your job and better overall.
Oh my God. I was just telling someone who has notoriously like only taken like a Friday off here and there, like never takes extended time. And I'm like, you need to take a week off sometimes. Like you just need to get that break. Like it just doesn't feel like a break when it's a long weekend. That's such valuable, whatever that you're sharing. Because I think,
companies should encourage it, because you're not going to do your best work if you're burning out, if you've been working nonstop, or if you feel like you're not able to do that because you're going to be judged or there's some other perception or politics associated with it. So that speaks to, we talk a lot about culture, but that speaks to more of a niche microculture that you create as a leader in an organization, or you collaborate and contribute to as someone who is emerging and needs to speak up for herself or himself when those moments arise. And look, we're coming to near the end of this conversation and you are still going strong. There's no burnout here, which I appreciate, but we are going to challenge your brain in a slightly different way with our lightning round series of questions. They are, you're not prepared for these. They're not scripted oftentimes. They are just basically reactions to some of the things that we've talked about. So I'm going to kick it off. And the most important question maybe of the day is lightning round question number 1. Which Melrose Place character do you most identify with?
You are bringing me back. I haven't watched in a while, but it was Amanda Woodward that worked in the advertising agency, right?
Heather Locklear, of course. Of course. Well, yes, high-powered executive, motivated, a great leader.
Blonde,
yes, certainly.
Anyway.
So is there, we talked about advice and guidance and support. Is there something that stands out that you've gotten from a mentor or a colleague that has stuck with you over the years?
I guess it relates a little bit to the balance point, but I had somebody, a mentor to me, tell me once, like, it's okay to say no. So as you're trying to climb the ladder and you're trying to advance, a lot of times, like, it's important to raise your hand and it's important to lean in, and you want the people above you to see you doing that, but you don't need to say yes to everything. So, make sure to find those moments and places and spaces, but it's okay to say no sometimes.
Do you have a favorite professional failure or a campaign or something? And you don't have to name names if you don't want to, but was there something that was like, we really swung and missed at that one?
I'm sure there's too many to count. I try not to remember or reflect on them too much. Okay. I might have to come back.
Good answer. Yeah. Let's leave it at that.
Great. I want you to describe for me in one word your work day.
This is a good one, Matt. I like this.
I feel like my answer is going to disappoint. Busy?
Yeah. That makes sense.
It's all about balance. We've talked about it. So how do you balance all of it? Do you have a favorite marketing or advertising campaign of all time that you're like, this is the iconic pantheon campaign that I always point to and love?
Or one as of recently that you recall that just seemed memorable? I can give you some time. You know what mine is? I still love that Google Pixel one where they showed how people can photograph well. Mm-hmm. I'm just obsessed with that. That was such a good campaign. I'm sorry. Okay.
No, I think that's great. And you gave me a minute to think. I mean, this is reflective of like my own personal preference and life preferences things too. But like, so I'm a cat person. We have a cat. And I love the Meow Mix work that has actually come out of Publicis and Smucker, but like the cat bands and like, the DJ cats and the country singer cats and everything. So I would check them out. I just love them.
Oh, those are iconic. If you weren't in the media industry, in marketing, was there an alternate career that you would have pursued? Or one that you secretly regret, but obviously
there's like two very, I guess, different things. So one is like I'm a huge Yankees fan, so I would have loved to like work, but I think still in like marketing for the Yankees. The other is I'm like obsessed with the West Wing and like Sam Seaborn and being like a speechwriter. So I did not pursue those paths, but I always thought that looked like a really cool job when I watched and rewatched the show.
My best friend would have told me I should have been a lobbyist, so maybe I would have seen you in DC in our altar.
We would have been there anyway with no voices.
Yelling at each other in the bowels of the Capitol building. Well, I think you made the right choice. As someone who did work in professional sports for another baseball team in New York, the grass is sometimes greener when you're looking from the outside because long days, people will work for no pay. But, I was there when the Mets at least lost to the Yankees in the World Series. I'm still waiting for my ring. So congratulations on that win 25 years ago over my team.
Thank you.
So last question, also, if you can, in one word, or maybe just a handful of words, finish this sentence. The future of advertising is...
the people.
Oh, wow. It didn't start with C though, so you may want to rethink that, Colleen. But
I'll work on it for next time.
Yeah, when you come back for the next episode, and when you decide to come back, that'll be the question we lead off with. But I know you could have said no to this because that's part of what you've worked on and celebrate. I'm glad you didn't. And thank you, Valerie, for making this happen.
I am so happy you were here. It's lovely to have you on. And
this has been fun. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Wow, that conversation was so good, it just flew by. Then again, I'm an AI-generated announcer created for your amusement and information, and time is not a construct with which I'm familiar. But I did learn a lot today, and hope you did too. Thanks to Colleen, our partner sponsors at Lead Feeder, and you, our faithful, snark-loving listeners.